Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Now from ELD's Time Vault Games, and we've got Tony versus Matt on Nick Fit. Tony's been running Blue-Red Delver to good effect, got back into the format sometime last year, started out with straight burn, did really well with it, was able to upgrade to Blue-Red Delver, and has been putting up consistently good results here. Cabal Therapy fired off from Matt, likely to name Force of Will, but no, actually not. Looks like Force not being discarded. Trying to think of what card would have been named there. Maybe he did not know what Tony was playing and he was avoiding a card like Show and Tell. Tough to say. The first Cabal Therapy often can whiff. Of course, the second time around, you've got that knowledge from the first one. And your main goal is to be sacrificing Veteran Explorer to start ramping up. That's where Nick Fit is going to excel. Tony, Basic Island and Volcanic. His Basic Island, the subject of a little bit of conversation online. It was a good little dialogue within the community. He had an anime altar on there that he has since voluntarily moved away from. And Force of Will, getting a token, knowing exactly how dangerous Veteran Explorer is, considering whether or not to get rid of Daze, you could get punished by a second Veteran Explorer right away. And Snapcaster. So high value card being Force of Willed. Force also a high value card in the matchup. Nick Fit can drop some serious bombs. Do not want to be unable to stop the cards that they are actually ramping into. And passing the turn there. Knowing that he still has Daze in hand, perhaps was thinking about Green Sun Zenith. Let's see what happens here. Ponder yet another token. Young Pyromancer really pulling some weight here. Shifting into potentially a roughly 3-turn clock here. 4 damage on board would technically be 4 turns, but not going to take a whole lot to generate some extra tokens and close that window. And of course with burn, that window closes even faster. Matt likely has about 3 turns here. Maybe less. Let's see. Daze still in hand for Tony. Going to serve as a important counter, or at least delaying the plan for Matt. Card like Green Sun Zenith. Would potentially grab that Veteran Explorer. Knows about the Daze. He may have to wait an extra turn or just plow forward, allowing it to be countered. Let's see what's next here. How is Matt going to claw his way back in? Veteran Explorer. Here we go. This is exactly what he's looking for. Brainstorm finding what he needs. And Tony likely going to lose. No, it doesn't look like he's actually. Oh, so he did get the Daze. And we see Lightning Bolt. Was the trigger for Veteran Explorer. It does go on the stack above the discard effect. And a 2-mana Collective Brutality. That is actually rather brutal here. That's going to take out the Young Pyromancer and turn this back into a situation that can be stabilized against rather easily. Pyromancer able to go so wide around so many threats, and it looks like discard and kill. Oh, and now Green Sun Zenith. And I believe this is just for 1, yes, for X equals 0, getting Dryad Arbor. So he can trade this for an elemental token, if need be. And Tony, at this point, looking for burn. Has a ton of lands on board. Brainstorm post-combat. Not actually sure if that's optimal. He did find Wasteland. The value of Wasteland does go up a bit if he decides to go after Dryad Arbor. Instead, he's going after the blue mana of Tropical Island. And there's a Pernicious Deed, which gets Spell Pierced. That Wasteland, absolutely crucial in keeping Matt off of Pernicious Deed mana. And another deed. Does this one stick? It does, and if Tony has another threat, now's the time. All right, so Delver comes down. Liliana of the Last Hope, and this game is razor tight now. Tony's going to need to find some burn in all likelihood. He is hellbent. He's got a lot of library manipulation. Don't expect any more lands to hit play for him. Ideally, he's going to want to save those to convert into burn spells with a card like Brainstorm. Liliana ticking up. Killing the Veteran Explorer. Getting a couple more basics. Blue, green, black mana aplenty. And I'm not sure what that card is, which is not shocking for me. Nick Fit does play some interesting card choices. Let me know in the comments. Got power and toughness. I think that might be the commander card that makes your lands do something aggressive, turns them into 5/3s or something. Let me know in the comments. I should totally know that. And Brainstorm here. Format, plenty of mana. So many bombs can be dropped. And attacking for, I believe, 5. Yep. And Liliana milling. And I didn't see the return. Would have typically returned. Would have typically returned a Veteran Explorer, I thought. I believe this is whenever a land goes to the graveyard, you get an elemental. I think that's what this one is, but we'll see. All right, fetching for Tony. Down to 12. Price of Progress looks like it's actually not going to be particularly useful. Young Pyromancer. Now that Liliana of the Last Hope can just mow it down. It looks like a little bit of desperation here. This may be closer to over. Oh, and Lily doesn't take out the Pyroman first. Blocks are made. And Force of Will, the last card in hand. This looks like game 1 is going to be a wrap. Green Sun Zenith. Gonna grab probably Thragtusk if I had to guess and push this way out of range. If not Thragtusk, then Scavenging Ooze also would have been something that could get back out of bolt range. So Matt taking down game 1 here in what is a difficult matchup for Blue-Red Burn. Veteran Explorer. Not something you can take full advantage of, unlike Miracles and Grixis Control. Blue-Red Delver not going to have piles of basics. Nick Fit probably a little bit difficult right now in the meta, just because the 2 premier control decks actually are not necessarily trampled by Veteran Explorer like they have been in the past. So many basic lands in those builds. Grixis control actually running Blood Moon in its own sideboard. Kind of a bizarre set of circumstances where Blood Moon's actually pretty reasonable against Grixis when you're a Blood Moon deck casting it on the first turn. But of course, if the game goes for any amount of time, they're going to be able to find their basics. Blood Moon primarily shutting off the fetch lands, which is big with Brainstorm as well. I mean, that can't be discounted. The not being able to sacrifice your polluted Delta to shuffle is a really significant impact on the game. Blood Sun was a card that just priced probably just at one, almost an impossible to price card. I feel like at 2 mana, Blood Sun would have been a tremendous card, and at 3 mana, it's just not good enough. 2 mana, it's almost like a null rod for the format, shutting off half of your opponent's mana base and drawing a card on top of it would have been great. But at 3 mana, just a bit much. Dampening Sphere, not really a card that's ever seen any type of play. 3 mana is an awful lot for a kind of 8 card that sits on board that doesn't completely wreck your opponent. Right, here we go. Tony going to be on the play. Mull to 6. Is he going to be able to open up with a Delver and keep the pressure going? No. Just Island go. Difficult start here. Perhaps he has Young Pyromancer in hand. If the Cabal Therapy is being fired off, that's probably what I would name from here. Given that there was no 1-drop, no Terramander, no Delver. And it looks like double Force. So a very brave line from Tony there. Had the potential to get both of those forces stripped out. Force is kind of the default card. Like when you're teaching somebody how to play with a deck with Cabal Therapy, very often you're like, just name Force of Will the first time. That is the card that'll probably ruin your day the most. And it looks like Young Pyromancer off the top. Green Sun Zenith for 1. And that will draw a Force of Will, generating a token here for Young Pyromancer. Phyrexian Tower would have allowed for quite a bit of acceleration the next turn, potentially 6 mana for Nick Fit. 2 extra basics plus 2 off of the tower. Let's see what can be done with just this 3. A Baleful Strix. Oh, and that card's kind of uncomfortably good in Nick Fit here. That's very interesting. Does draw a Lightning Bolt. Getting that out of the way to keep the pressure going. And at this point, Tony's main game plan is just hold the fort down for 3 more turns. He's got a Spell Pierce to potentially help with that. That's going to push a card like Pernicious Deed, an additional card, additional turn later, be able to resolve. And then an additional turn later to be able to activate Dryad Arbor along with Green Sun Zenith. For 1, going to be able to grab Veteran Explorer again. And Spell Pierce, and that's going to, even though the Dryad Arbor is sick, it can be sacrificed to Phyrexian Tower to get mana to pay for the Spell Pierce. So there's the Explorer. He's going to look to chump block Young Pyromancer, or trade, I should say. Certainly not a chump block, so that may keep Pyroman at bay. Tony really going to want the Delver to flip here. No, and he's got a Cabal Therapy already. That's right, from the first turn. We finally got around to Veteran Explorer. So now that's going to be able to hit the remaining card. Does Matt know what it is? Does Matt know the contents of Tony's hand? And it looks like a Price of Progress. That is going to do a ton of extra damage. Scavenging Ooze with no more green floating. And this looks like it could do it with a flip. No flip. And now he's thinking about whether he wants to draw that card or not. Going to take that opportunity to fetch. One more damage needed to close it out right now. And decisions must be made. Do you send with just the tokens or send with a team? Tony just moves all in. And Delver, almost certainly the card you want to block, but you can't because Young Pyromancer would add up to lethal. That Delver now threatens the flip almost no matter what you put on board. You have to handle the Delver now. A bunch of blockers needed. Liliana, the last hope in hand. Not going to be enough. And the deck give him something he needs here. Looks like Brainstorm about to happen. Brainstorm 3 fresh looks, trying to find an out. And it's 3 lands, and that is an awful situation. The investment not paying off. Absolutely brutal. Liliana, the last hope. She will not do it. Milling 2. Turning Veteran Explorer. Playing it. Going to be able to sack it to get 2 black. I may be wrong about the number of basics Tony's running. He's actually got more than I thought to support Price of Progress. Of course, Blue-Red Delver not really able to leverage having a bunch of those basics in play. It doesn't actually help their game plan in general like it does the hard control decks. But that's going to do it. So Matt unable to find a way to move forward there. And Tony moving into game 3. See what Matt can do on the play. Pause for a second there. Usually I've got a little graphic up there saying what the match count is. We are actually going into game 3 here with Matt on the play. So many bombs. From Pernicious Deed to Liliana. I think it might be Titania. Might be the card I couldn't remember from before. But a lot of ways of going over the top, and this build here with Brainstorm's been very interesting for him. Blue also gives access to Baleful Strix, a card that feels at home in the deck. You've got excess mana lying around. Being able to convert that into a card draw and some board presence is actually pretty nice. The Veteran Explorer leading out here, followed by a 1-drop on the other side with Delver of Secrets. And Brainstorm trying to find this Cabal Therapy. Veteran Explorer is often thought of as a 1-mana moat, and he kind of is. Turning sideways, though, not gonna prevent Delver from attacking, perhaps guessing that he was going to flip anyways. Not worth missing out on the point of damage. The Wasteland there for Tony. And that is the play. Sensing that Veteran Explorer may be a ways away from flipping. Does seem like if you're able to throttle Nick Fitt's mana base, they're going to run into some problems. And Brainstorm there for Matt, perhaps looking to grab another fetch land to go along with it. And he's brainstorming in response to the attack. Not actually sure that's going to be optimal for him. Just, you know, from a zoomed out view, it seems like it would have been better to do a main phase Brainstorm and then potentially use a 1-mana Green Sun Zenith. But Matt probably knows his list better than I do. He might not be that interested in a 1-mana Zenith. He did find it. It is pass back, and this is going to wrap up really fast. Brainstorm locked on his side. He knows the next card as well, and it's not going to be any help. Going to be down at 6, facing down a flipped Delver. Tony fetching a couple of volcanic islands here. And ponder, and it looks like he's probably just digging for permission. Cards like Force of Will, Daze, and Spell Pierce are going to be at a premium here. He just needs to hold it together for 3 more turns. Potentially 2 if he can find some burn. Really anything along those lines is good, either counters or burn. Any of it could potentially keep this game in check long enough for Delver to close the deal. Veteran Explorer, just no support, no therapy, no tower. Wasteland shows up, and there's a Dryad Arbor preemptively giving the bad news that Dryad Arbor will not be around for long. Down to 3, and there's the bolt to finish it off. So Tony takes it down in a hard-fought 3 against Nick Fit.